Hi there, my name is Steven. I'm here at the Michelin Tire Workshop, and today we're going to be going over how do I change a mountain bike tire that has a tube in it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take off the old tire. And the first step is going to be removing the valve cap and unscrewing the little part in the middle and letting all of the air out. So with all of the air out of the tire, we're going to go ahead and take off the little lock nut there. And a good tip is to go ahead and try to break the seal of the tire to help it come off easier. So here you can see that it's nicely seated into the rim. I'm going to squeeze it all the way around, making sure that the bead is broken from the tire or from the rim. Okay. Now with the bead broken all the way around the rim, it's going to be easier to take the tire off. So for taking the tire off, what I like to do is work on the side that's away from the disc brake. This way I'm not putting my fingers in any risk if I slip. And I take my tire remover tool, and as you can see, the tire remover tool has two sides to it. One side has a little hook, and this little hook is going to be what we put underneath the tire bead. And the back side is flat, and this is what we're going to use to try to take the tire off. So we take the first lever, put it underneath the bead. Take the second lever, put it under the bead on the opposite side of the valve, not too far away. Give it a nice, good push, like that, to break the bead off of the rim. And then from here, I can take the back side, slide it in between, and start to just work my way around the tire a little bit, removing the tire. Just like that. Okay. Now, the best thing to do here is go ahead and push that over so you can grab that valve, pull that out. If you're going to keep your inner tube, make sure you inspect it to make sure there are no leaks. Otherwise, just discard it and get a new inner tube. Now, to take the tire off, the easiest way is, again, working on the non-disc side, is you take it and you put it on the floor, and using your shoulder, just push down on the tire, and it comes right off, okay? So, with the tire off, if you're going to put the same tire back on, you're going to want to look at the inside of the tire to make sure there's no contaminants, there's no thorns or rocks or anything poking in there that'll cause your new inner tube to be destroyed. And you also want to have a good look at the rim to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the rim. The rim tape is solid and intact, there's no cracks or creases, and you don't have any damage to the rim that might cause some problems with the tire after you remount it. Now that you've verified that your rim is good, there's no defects that need treating, that you have either a new tire or that the tire is ready to be put on the rim, and that you have an inner tube that's good, we're ready to mount that tire. So what you need to do is you need to look at your tire to figure out which directional sense it's supposed to run in. And on this tire, it's going to be this way. So I'm going to take that tire and I'm going to hold it in the direction as if I was on the bike, okay? Now, in order to make sure that the rim is going the same direction, I'm going to put the disc brake on the left, because on all bicycles, discs are on the left. And now I know that the tire and the rim are both going the same direction, the direction it needs to be mounted. I like to then take the valve hole, I like to line it up with the logo so that it looks nice and pro. And then I'll start by putting the entire rim inside the tire, like this, okay? So far, nice and simple. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take the tire and you're going to put it into the center of the rim, because there's a little channel in the center where it's a little bit thinner. You're going to want to put it in the center, and then hold it there as you work your way around the tire, and you're going to work your way around both sides of the tire at the same time. And because it's in the center, you should be able to mount that tire without using any tire levers. Now, the easiest thing to do is to take the palm of your hand and just try to roll it onto there until you have the entire tire mounted like this, okay? So that's one side. Flip it over, put the tire back in form. Now we'll take our inner tube and we're gonna put a little bit of air in the inner tube, and it's really gonna help us out, okay? So I'm gonna put some air in. Okay, good rule of thumb, or good rule of finger maybe, is that you want to take your finger and see that it has a little bit of a break on it, but not too much. That means that you've got enough air in it to where it's going to keep its form, it's going to help you put that tube inside the tire, and you're not going to struggle too much with it. If you put too much air in, it's going to be really hard to get that tire on, and too little, you really risk to pinch that inner tube, okay? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close the valve to make sure no air leaks out as I'm working on it. Then I'm going to start with the valve, pulling it off to the side here so I have a good access to the valve bowl. Then go ahead and do that. I'm going to take the valve hold retaining screw for nut, slide that on real quick. This is going to prevent the inner tube from moving around as I'm working on it. Now a lot of people, they like to just start on one side and poke around, but I really like to do things symmetrically. It helps to make sure that everything's put in the good way and that everything's going to line up nicely, nothing gets pinched. Okay, so now the inner tube is on the inside. I'm going to spin the tire around so that I start on the side away from the valve. And I'm going to do the same procedure as I did before. I'm going to take the edge of the bead and I'm going to try to put that in the middle because that's going to help me try to get this tire on using the least amount of force as possible. Now, I like to put it up against my stomach, first of all because it helps me do my stomach exercises, but also because it keeps it in place. Okay, so I'm going to work my way symmetrically around, keeping it nice and tight up against my stomach. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to work with my palms until I get all the way around. Now, okay, so with the tire mounted all the way around, I'm going to do one last check just to make sure that there's no inner tube sticking out or pinched anywhere. And if you followed the tip from earlier by putting the right amount of air in, that should not happen. So I'm going to unscrew the valve cap now and I'm going to inflate the tire. Now, as I inflate it, I'm going to take it up to about where I ride, and then I'm going to add little bits of air progressively until I'm sure that the tire is seated all the way around. Okay, so make sure it's seated. It seems to be good. I like to also maybe pump it up to just maybe a couple PSI more than what I actually ride at, because then I can let a couple bits of air out faster than I can re-add it later. And then I'm going to go ahead and close the valve stem just as I look. Now, if I look closely, there's a line that's imprinted on the tire that I can look at to make sure that the rim is properly seated all the way around the tire. And I'm going to check that on both sides. If you don't check that and you go ahead and start riding, sometimes it's going to feel like the tire is not round. It can also lead to really bizarre handling properties and can use your tire a little bit weird. Okay, so this one seems to be well mounted. Make sure that it's nice and closely tightened, and put on the valve cap. And I'm ready to go.